So guys, the G7 happened over the weekend, and oh boy, we got a whole bunch of clips of Biden just, well, being Biden.
I'm going to get in trouble with my staff. Yeah, go ahead, but I pretend that you didn't answer you.
Thank you very much, sir. You have often said repeatedly that America is back.
Yes.
At the same time, you've kept in place some Trump-era steel and aluminum sanctions. And I wanted to ask you, when you're having these conversations with European allies who are very concerned about these sanctions, how do you justify that? And what are your plans to
120 days. Give me a break. Need time. Thanks.
Don't you love that? Well, one of the biggest things and one of the biggest stories to come out of the G7 is the story about how they're posturing on China, with, in large respect, coming out pretty hard against them, at least at first glance. And this has been kind of a consistent theme across the Biden administration. He has been signaling, at least verbally, that he is anti-China, that he's going to go and rough them up. He's been doing this pretty much throughout his entire presidency up until this point. So a question needs to be asked. Is all of this real, or is it true that people like me and others on the right are correct when they posit that Biden is, in fact, Beijing Biden? And I will continue to argue that he, in fact, is exactly as I and many others portray him. The evidence, of course, is not in his rhetoric, because frankly, not even China really cares about their rhetoric, so long as it isn't, we should probably decouple from China. As I've established in my last video, anything but that is pretty much inconsequential to them. What they care about is the actions of the administration, and the actions of the Harris and Biden administration have been, well, let's say, not exactly anti-China. Now, they have kind of held off in certain respects on stopping certain aspects of the trade war that Trump began. But a lot of the pressure has been taken off of China. And one of the better examples of how Biden has been slowly letting off the pressure valve is something that just happened a few days ago. Another thing which I talked about in that China video, which is the lack of a TikTok ban, or the recension of that attempted ban by the Trump administration. That sort of action, which is much more helpful to China than anything that happened at the G7 summit would possibly be detrimental to them. I mean, you can even get to the point where you're talking about COVID-19, where they're trying to press China, or at least feigning pressing China, on having an actual investigation into the origins of the coronavirus, which is kind of an absurdity at this point, considering that we're already more than a year out, and any evidence that there would have been back a year ago for whatever the actual origin of the coronavirus is, are already probably well gone now. And any misdeeds by the CCP would certainly have been scrubbed by this point. We're not going to be getting anything out of that, and even if he gets any concessions, they're probably not going to be anything substantial, and that's the trick. Even if they aren't substantial, even if they don't, China doesn't cave to anything almost at all, Biden's still going to take a lot of what is bloviated about as a win. If China even so much as feigns as though they're at all worried about what Biden's doing, then Biden gets to say, well, look, I'm the tough on China president, that's not Trump, and then he gets to ride that to political Valhalla, essentially. He gets to ride that to continued political success, or at least that's the idea. I don't think it's going to work because, well, Biden looks really corrupt when it comes to China. He doesn't actually talk all that disparagingly of them. Of course, he goes after their human rights record on occasion, and including on this G7 summit, but he doesn't really go in on them, and he doesn't seem willing to do exactly what everyone knows needs to be done in order to actually deal with China in any real respect. And that's why I don't believe any of this is real. I don't think that Biden is at all interested in truly dealing with China or doing anything that would piss them off. which is why he hasn't really done anything to piss them off. Of course, the Chinese have feigned wanting to go to nuclear war with the US if they try and press them on the coronavirus origins, but all of that's hot air, really. It doesn't seem as though they would even be particularly interested in that, especially since if they won that exchange, even if they won that exchange, which is highly unlikely considering that our military is still vastly superior to theirs despite all of the woke posturing our military is doing, they don't win. As I've already well established in my last video, once again, go check that out. I thought it was a very good video, and I researched a lot about it. It was a pretty good video. They rely on America's economy in order to sustain themselves. If they didn't have the foreign investment that was coming from America, they would not exist. And so the last thing they want to do is get out into open war with us, at least not at this point. Now, at some point in the future, that may be a part of their long-term planning. After all, part of their long-term plan is to turn this fake stability into real stability eventually, hopefully, maybe, if it's even possible. I don't believe it is, but that's a point of opinion and a point of speculation that I'm not entirely sure about, so I'm not going to make any hard and fast predictions, just light ones. And that is fundamentally why Biden's focusing where he is. He's focusing on things like human rights abuses, which everyone can get behind. Everyone can get behind the idea that China is, in fact, a human rights abuser. And he can even get behind the whole coronavirus origin thing. He can even press them on that to a certain extent. But what he can't do is press them economically, at least not in any real sense. That's why we have the separation in the policy as it seems to be. While he may be pushing on coronavirus, he's leaning back. He's getting out of the economic wars. Not particularly quickly. Of course, he doesn't want to look too enthralled to China, but he's doing it slowly and by degrees. That is almost inarguable. The TikTok story is just one example of this. He's done it in many other areas, but of course, I think the TikTok example is the best one, and the one that's most readily available considering it's a recent story. And it's really quite funny that this happened not 2 days before he starts railing on about how he's the anti-China guy. It's quite funny, and you know, I think that's where I'm going to leave this video off. A bit of a shorter one than my last one, but hey, I'm a bit tuckered out from all the talking I did last time and all the research and whatnot, so I wanted to be a bit more lax for this video. If you enjoyed that video, though, do in fact subscribe down below and check out my other content, particularly that China video. I really liked it. It's really good. And go and share that video and this one. You can use the buttons down in the description. There's lots of them. There's also lots of links down in the description. Very pretty, very nice links to where I have my other platforms, where either be Odyssey or Rumble or any of those other places. Great alternative platforms down there. And we have breakingonthedaily.locals.com, which I suggest you check out. I'm planning on putting more content up there. I'll have a video up, actually. I'm planning on having a video up on Tuesday, which is tomorrow when this video comes out. And that's where I'm going to leave you guys off. I'm KelKidman, this has been Breaking on the Daily, and I'm out.